Thank you for joining us for Discover Tennessee History for the 2022-2023 school year. These webinars will be offered once a month throughout the school year, and we are so excited that you are joining us today. Please be sure to keep your mic muted and rename yourself with your first and last name so we know who's joining us. You have a couple different ways to interact with the meeting host or presenters through all of these sessions. One of them is the chat, which you can do through Zoom at the bottom of your screen, as well as different types of reactions in there. So just let us know you're engaged and what you think as we work through the sessions. We also have a Padlet that is available for you with all of the resources that are referenced in this session and all the sessions to come. This is a stable link and it will not change. So be sure to grab it now so that you can see all these resources as they uh, kind of compile over the school year. Next month, we'll be hearing from the Abraham Lincoln Library and Museum, Singing Through the War, sheet music as a primary source for studying Civil War Tennessee. We do hope you join us for that session in October. And we also are looking for feedback from today's session. So please be sure to fill out this form so that we know what you enjoyed, what you took away from it, what we can shift a little bit so that this meets the needs that you have. You can also pause for a second. You can do this on your phone as well. My name is Nikki Ward, and I'm the state coordinator of Tennessee History Day. And for our session of Discover Tennessee History, we are going to introduce to you what History Day is, what a project looks like, and also show you some resources that you can use to introduce History Day to your students in your classroom environment. As far as what History Day provides to you. History Day leads students to actively do history rather than just passively learn. And it is a part of the National History Day program, which is a project based learning framework where students are asked to be the historian. They're asked to do their own independent research and to create a thesis, then present those ideas to a larger audience. That larger audience is up to you as their educator. So that could be your classroom, it could be a school contest, it could also be at the district or regional contest in your area, patrons at the library, or a documentary showcase at your school. But at its core, it is an opportunity for students to be the historian. History without an argument is an encyclopedia, and in this case, kids are creating that argument and being the historian. Tennessee History Day is put on at the state level by the Tennessee Historical Society. We are a nonprofit membership organization which is headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. And we do all kinds of things related to the history of Tennessee. Those things include the publication of the Tennessee Historical Quarterly. We do public programming and lectures, special projects such as the Tennessee Encyclopedia of History and Culture, and have an active collection of artifacts that are housed at the State Museum or the Tennessee State Library and Archive. And the largest public program that we do is the coordination of Tennessee History Day. So if you are interested in becoming a educator member, we do have a special rate of $25 a year for you. And you just send me an email and I can get you set up. So at its core, what is History Day? It is a year-long education program for students in grades 6 through 12 that focuses on project-based learning. It's an opportunity for students to learn history by engaging in this hands-on historical research on a topic in which they are interested. And it's an exploration of any topic in world, national, state, or local history. It does not have to be Tennessee history to participate in Tennessee History Day. We are called Tennessee History Day because it is the Tennessee affiliate of National History Day. I think it's important to remember that History Day isn't just a contest. It looks like what it needs to for you and your students. Of course, we want you to come to the regional and state contests if you are able, but if you are just beginning the History Day endeavor, accommodate for your own needs. That is still doing History Day. There are levels of participation, and that is okay. Fourth through fifth grade teachers, you can adapt this for your classrooms as well. And something we suggest is connecting with a middle or high school teacher and a teacher in an older grade level to prepare students for what they might encounter when they move on to that later grade and start to do History Day with that teacher. The magic of in HD is the flexibility the framework gives you. It also is a really great interdisciplinary program. Students who participate in History Day have better test scores and gain skills they'll need in college or in joining the workforce. It does offer an opportunity to teach and practice higher order thinking skills. It meets any of the standards that it needs to meet. It's very flexible and adaptable to your classroom environment, as well as all of the social studies practices. It offers a framework you can implement into your own classroom in which students have the ability to make choices in their own learnings. And it also is an opportunity for that self regulatory skill practice. Keeping up with dates, items, research, all of that is good practice for students. So, how do they participate? Students enter either the junior division or senior division, junior 6th through 8th, senior 9 through 12. Students then compete at school, district, regional, state, or the national contest. And they participate by creating a project, and then they are eligible to compete. Divisions, as I stated, are created by grade. And if you have your entire 8th grade compete, your winners from that school contest perhaps go on to their regional contest. If they're interested in participating in it, it is a tiered contest. Generally, we have around 7,500 students across the state of Tennessee participate at the school level in Tennessee History Day. If you don't teach grade 6 through 12, that doesn't mean you can't do History Day, it just means you can't compete. Like I said earlier, you can take elements of the framework and use them in your classroom. How do students present their findings? They have 5 different categories: documentary, exhibit, performance, website, and paper. Paper is individual only. And what I mean by that is that students also are split in individual or group being 2 through 5 students together. And like I said, division. So in the junior division, I have junior individual documentary, junior group documentary. Both of those are separate categories. Often your topic shapes your category that you choose. It needs to suit the research that you have done. So if a student does a project, does all their research on the history of animation, they may not be served best by a paper, right? That might be good for documentary or something more visual than paper. There are many ways to participate in Tennessee History Day. I'm going to focus on the contest itself first, and then categories and elements of the project. Then I'll share resources and other options available to educators. In Tennessee, History Day starts in August when students arrive back at school, and district contests take place in November in the northeast part of Tennessee. Regional contests for everyone else is in February, and all of them are in February this year. And then the top 2 in each category from regionals will head to state, which will be on April 15th this year in Nashville, Tennessee. If students qualify for nationals, they will be competing in this contest in June of 2023. We usually have around 65 kids that attend the national contest. And between each contest, students are encouraged to revisit and rework their project. The rulebook is located at this link as well as on our website on the Padlet page that is in pretty much everywhere. It's also in the toolkit that that I just mentioned in the Padlet. So I pretty much have the rulebook for you everywhere. And looking at the process for a student, as I mentioned, it starts in August at that school level. Students pick a topic that relates to the theme. The theme is something I'll mention in a moment. They start workshopping it with their teacher, going to the library, finding resources, keeping track of what they use, fashion a thesis, craft their project according to the rules and rubrics provided by National History Day, and they go to the contest. And at that contest, they'll meet with judges, present their project, and receive feedback. And then after the contest, they will revise based on the feedback that they receive. To provide a focus for student research and topic selection, National History has an annual theme. So every year there is a theme that students have to use. So it's big and broad on purpose to give students a lot of leeway. Their task is to justify how their topic fits the annual theme and demonstrates historical significance. It's difficult to demonstrate historical perspective for really recent topics that are still unfolding. So, if a historian has not written about it and provided historical perspective on it yet, it's likely not a good idea for an NHD project. If a student's really interested in a recent historical topic, we often encourage them to look back further and contextualize it within on something that more historical work has been completed on. So they might find that thing that they're interested in could really work as a significance piece, but they need their project to be about something that happened a little bit further back that has more historical perspective on it. So we suggest around 20 years. Um, and for this year, since there's three things: people, places, ideas, students always get very concerned. They have to address all three of those things, or two, depending on what the theme sounds like that year. They do not have to address all of the aspects there, although many topics kind of lend themselves to that. This theme, as I mentioned, is really broad in scope to encourage investigation of topics ranging from local to global history. To understand historical importance of their topics, they must ask questions of time and place, cause and effect, change over time, impact, and significance. Some things for frontiers this year. What factors contributed to the development of a frontier? Why did that frontier emerge? How did it change? When did it cease to be a frontier? And what impact did it have on the people who experienced it? And how do they affect that frontier? So, regardless of the topic selected, students must present a description of it, draw conclusions about how their topic affected individuals, communities, nations, or the world, changing the course of human society. The theme, as I mentioned, frontiers in history, people, places, ideas. I do want to highlight some of the resources from National History Day for you to navigate the theme this year. So, one thing that they have created for you is a theme narrative. It's a 4-page handout, and that is certainly usable in the classroom. It's on everything I'm mentioning is going to be on the Padlet for you. So, this is a handout that you can print and work on with your students in class. There's also a theme book. It's a 58-page booklet, consists of essays from National History Day and their partners. The PDF is online. I also have hard copies. If you're interested in that, you can sign up. The link will be in the Discover Tennessee History Padlet to request a curriculum packet from me that has the hard copy of this. There's a theme graphic organizer that is available for print, or there's also a fillable PDF if you want to throw that into your Google Classroom, whatever learning software you use. There is a theme video that introduces the topic or the theme to your students. It's around 10 minutes, I believe, and this can be used in the classroom. I'm going to skip forward. It's going to try to play it on me. Yeah. And then there's also a teacher introduction video that is for you. It's helpful to gain context and insight prior to starting students on their research. So it kind of grounds you in how NHD is viewing this topic. So I'm going to quickly share with you the ways in which a student may decide to display their argument. So they're doing their research, they found something that connects to the theme, they're working on finding primary and secondary resources, and now they're examining the different category options to see which one best serves their topic. So the elements that go into a History Day project are the project itself, the annotated bibliography, and then a process paper. A documentary is one of your options. It's an audiovisual presentation that uses multiple source types such as images, videos, and sound to communicate your historical argument, research, and interpretation of your topic's significance in history. So, who should compete in documentary? This would be great for students who have a grasp of how images and sound work together to tell a story, students who have the technical skills to edit footage and audio, students who have access to technology, groups. So this is great for students who can't meet in person easily. Maybe they each work on sections of the documentary. Documentaries must be no more than 10 minutes in length, and that includes source credits at the end. Students will have 5 minutes before to set up and introduce their documentary, and 5 minutes after to pick up an interview with their judges. A website is a collection of interconnected web pages that uses multimedia to communicate your historical argument, research, and interpretation of your topic's significance in history. Students that choose to do a website must use NHD Web Central for their topic creation. NHD, I'm sharing this with you. It is September 13th. I'm sharing with you that Nationals just released their NHD Web Central guide for this year. So if you are watching this, know that that is available. I actually did yesterday. I put it all on the THD toolkit, all of the NHD Web Central materials that they've put out for this year. So they have to use that one for it to be able to compete. Websites work well as a group project, as students can access their work from anywhere as long as they have internet available to them. Their bibliography and process paper is embedded within the website. They may use professional photographs, graphics, videos, recorded music within the site. Such items must be integrated into the website, not linked outside of it, and must be credited within the site and cited in that annotated bibliography. Students are limited to 1,200 visible words. And this category works well for students who have technical skills. They really enjoy working with the computer and using digital media to present an argument. Students who have a strong grasp of language, and students who are organized. Paper is a written format for presenting your historical argument, research, and interpretation of your topic's significance in history. Paper is the only category that has to be done individually. It requires a process paper and annotated bibliography as well. And who should compete in this category? It's good. It's great for students that like to work individually, that really want to have sole ownership of the tone and language within their project. Students who have a strong grasp of language, and students who are organized. An exhibit is a three-dimensional physical and visual representation of students' historical argument, research, and interpretation of their topic's significance in history. And if you choose, so this year we are doing all physical boards because our contest will be all in person this year. We are requiring some submission guidelines that are different from when we were all in person several years ago. We are requiring some pictures of your exhibit with your process paper and bibliography at registration deadline. There is a submission guide on the Padlet, on the Teacher Toolkit Padlet, as well as on the website to kind of clarify that. But this is a great category for students who are really visually creative, but have the time to and the materials to construct a large physical exhibit. Students who can meet and work together in person, and that really enjoy hands-on work to be able to share their argument. Media devices are allowed, and there is a limit to student-composed words on that board. It's 500. Here's a few more examples of exhibit. And then we have performance. A performance is a dramatic portrayal of your historical argument, research and interpretation of your topic's significance in history. This is great for students who have the time to do the research and to craft that into a performance. Students who have an understanding of narrative and tone and how to tell a story. And this, for groups, this is great for students that can work together and practice that performance, block it out, get all of that prepared for the contest. Performances cannot exceed 10 minutes in length. Media devices, projection, sound, that kind of stuff is permitted, but students must set up and operate that all themselves. So you can't have a grown-up out to the side turning off and on things for kids. They have to do all of that themselves, all the students that are performing. They have 5 minutes beforehand to set up, so it needs to be something that can be put up in 5 minutes. And they have 5 minutes after to take down an interview with the judges. Assistance in producing costumes and props is allowed, but students must choose fabrics, must be a part of the design process, have kind of the voice of the design process. All that's called reasonable help, and there are descriptions of what that looks like in the rule book if you need a little bit of clarity on what is allowed. This year, you will need to record your performance and submit that online at the registration deadline. It needs to be one take with no post-editing, so basically just your dress rehearsal. Upload that to the SmugMug folders that you see on our website at the registration deadline, and you are good to go. And the other pieces of a History Day project that all categories are required to do is the process paper and annotated bibliography, and they are critical components of your project. You can have all the sources in the world in your bibliography, but if we don't see that in the student work, it can often ding on the rubric. So judges are encouraged to read this first. They are interacting with your process paper and your annotated bibliography, and then looking at your project. So, like I said, if they're seeing all these great resources and that's not evident in the project itself, that shows a little bit of a disconnect between the research that you've done and the argument that you're making. Process paper describes how the students conducted their research and what conclusions they came to as they worked. There are 5 questions to answer with this paper. So, how did you choose your topic? How does it relate to the annual theme? How did you conduct your research? And how did you create your project? What is your historical argument? And in what ways is your topic significant in history? Um, we're looking for information on what sparked their interest. What was the most useful primary source, right? Tell us that when you were talking about how you conducted your research. How did you refine that research, right? Maybe you struggled to find resources. There are specific questions here, so make sure that they are answering those questions. And then the bibliography is divided into primary and secondary resources. It's annotated, which is sometimes a challenge. So, um, my advice is to have the questions there as you are writing these annotations, um, so that you are making sure you're aligning your answers, your annotations with these prompts. So, how was the source used? How did the source help you understand your topic? It's not a tiny book report, right? This is specific questions. How did you use the source? How did it help you understand your topic? So we've talked about a project, all the elements of a project, the options of categories that students have. So let's talk about assessment. How are projects assessed at History Day? So the entries are evaluated on historical quality, which is 80%, and their clarity of presentation. This is a slide that I took from our judge orientation. And here's some information that I will tell judges on judging day as we are talking through the rubric. The most important piece of this is historical quality, and within that is the relation to theme. Do not get hung up on clarity of presentation errors that can be fixed. Typos, glue smears, improper formatting, all that can be fixed before moving on to the next level. We really want um, judges to dig into the work that students are presenting and finding feedback that's helpful for students. So we are looking at the quality of student work. The function of a rubric on contest day is different than the function of the rubric for you. So we've talked about the project itself, but we have not looked at the rubric. The rubric is what judges are given as they're evaluating student work. And the reason there is a rubric is so that it's streamlined. We are hoping for equity and same for all students. It deters bias based on topic because they are looking at very specific criteria for each section. It helps keep them focused. In general, educators say they found these rubrics to be really helpful in creating stronger projects, right? It's kind of offering a common language between the judges, educators, and students. And it provides a depth of feedback. Everybody has access to this rubric all year long. So I'm suggesting to you that you can make this rubric carry some weight during the school year as something called an instructional rubric, which I'll introduce a little bit later. Here is what the rubric looks like. I know you can't really read it, but we'll talk about the specifics of it in a moment. As far as key features as an overview, on the front you see entry information at the top, historical quality criteria, all of these boxes here, and then comment space. Side 2 is the clarity of presentation criteria, rules compliance checkboxes, did they follow the rules, yes or no, and then comment space. If a student breaks a rule, they have to qualify. Judges have to say why they believe that rule was not followed. So don't give the judges an opportunity to give your students feedback they could have given themselves. Make our judges work to provide feedback for you. I know in some cases you may have told a student something several times and they just don't get it, so maybe they do need to hear it from somebody that's not their educator. But in general, getting students to spend time with the language that is within these squares before they come to a contest is helpful for them so that It might save them from feedback they either don't understand or feedback that's not helpful. Make sure they are understanding they're what they're being evaluated on before they get evaluated. So, something to think about as you are looking at participating in History Day. Documentary and exhibit are the most popular categories. Fewer participants enter performance and website. I will say website was quite popular the last few years just because the virtual element of it. So keep that in mind. I'm not sure if that's something that will stay in an in person year. Students can never have enough primary sources. It is important, however, they not rely just on photographs. So be sure to look at all different types of repositories. Library of Congress is a great archive for you to look at. They have all different types of resources available online. Make sure projects have a clear thesis and the relation to the theme is evident. Prepare the students for the judging process. It will save you time on the back end if you make sure students are familiar with the rubric before the contest results. And make sure there's time to practice giving and receiving feedback. If students are creating a website, make sure they're doing it in the NHD Web Central editor. And reach out to your regional coordinators or me at the state. If you have questions, we are here to help you navigate this contest. Sometimes students struggle with feedback from adults that aren't you. So, how can we help them through the process of listening to others for advice? Something to think about before the contest. Also, teaching them that all advice isn't infallible. How do we weed out advice that may not work for us or our project? So, how do you set this up in your school setting? Some people will make it a mandatory part of class. Some people work with their departments and have the entire grade level participate. Some do it as a small group or club. Uh, the clubs are quite successful at History Day. And this really works well with team teaching. Get a librarian on board, get an ELA teacher on board. It really is a great cross curricular option. Things to keep in mind. The rule book is for the contest, not the classroom. So History Day will look like what it needs to for your classroom and your students. Diet Coke History Day is still History Day, meaning if you just do this in your classroom and you don't come to a contest, that is still doing History Day. And so, with that being said, whatever your level of participation is, please let me know because I like to know what schools are doing History Day. And I'm still your coordinator. So, please let me know what I can do to help you and your students, even if you're not participating in a contest, which I do hope you do. It is a really great experience. But for your first few years, sometimes that's just a bit too ambitious. So, be sure to let me know if you're just doing it at the school level. Start as small as you feel comfortable. And if you're using elements of the framework, even just the rubric, let me know. Work with peers. Like I said earlier, drama teachers, AV teachers make really great team teachers for History Day. Some things that you could do to limit the program as you are kind of learning the ropes of History Day. Limit categories. Maybe say they can only do website, paper, and exhibit the first year. Limit topics. Maybe you give them a section of your standards and they are only able to pick a topic that is related to that section of the standards. Limit group sizes. 5 can be really challenging if you're new to History Day. So maybe say 3 is the max because that's a lot of voices at once. And like I said, making the contest an optional component. Maybe you have, if your, goal is to bring a lot of kids to the contest, spread them across the categories. But maybe you have kids that don't want to do the contest but want to do History Day, and then you have some that do want to do the contest and make it optional for them. The Tennessee History Day and National History Day websites have a lot of information for you. That is what the toolkit link looks like. I will have it on the Discover Tennessee History Padlet page for you as well, so you can check that out. So I'm going to highlight a few resources for you, and then I'm going to tell you who is your regional coordinator. So I mentioned instructional rubrics as a means of introducing the language within the rubric itself earlier. So what is an instructional rubric? This is another means of student evaluation. They are for growth. And they're not a means of final assessment. This can be hardest for students to understand when rubrics are used as a means of assigning grades. So these kind of take the mystery out of the assignment and expectations of a task. They can help students that struggle to find focus in their efforts. Maybe they feel overwhelmed or don't know where to put their time, and set clear steps to grow their work. It's also a really easy way to implement self reflection and peer reflection. These can be used in both the classroom and club setting to learn to give and receive feedback. That is really hard to teach. It can be a major point of anxiety at the contest. And in general, peer peer review, peer feedback sometimes is not helpful, but practicing giving that feedback is helpful. Having them look at other examples of projects is helpful. So even if the feedback they're receiving from their peers isn't going to necessarily really round out their project, it's still a great activity for that kind of self reflection, self examination, and looking at other work. This is what the instructional rubrics look like. The role of this is to inform your decisions about your project moving forward and make changes. It is formative, not summative. It is unlabeled at the top, and the big focus of this is qualifying your choices. So this is thinking centered instead of just goal centered, right? It's a tool for focus for maybe some students that need to just look at historical argument and not get completely bogged down by the rest of that overwhelming rubric. And it's also practice developing that common language. Um, this can be used towards the middle phase of a project, and when there's still time to make some changes, it gives them room to qualify their choices. So, why did this score in the second category? Why is it not in the third? Actually, tell me why. Helps them see how to move forward. This is also a great way to get rid of that easy feedback from the judges and make them step up their game in giving comments. The rubrics are written for student use, so this, like I said, is another tool of the rubric to develop that vocabulary surrounding their work as well as the work of a historian. It gets them familiar with the language they will hear from you and their other writing and social science teachers to come. And whatever judge or administrator might be looking at their work and providing feedback. So by the time they get that feedback, the difference between consistently supported or mostly supported isn't as mysterious. This is also an opportunity for student choice in their project evaluation and revision. Maybe you're saying, here, go pick one that you want to focus on today. And maybe it's one they know they're struggling with, or maybe it's one that they feel really comfortable with and they're excited to kind of score themselves high. This is also a way to make growth visible through words and not numbers. Basically, we've just pulled apart the rubric for you and emphasized the language within the sections for your students. And there's also a space at the bottom for personal goals too. So it's not all just about the project itself. I know this isn't groundbreaking. Using rubrics helps students and teachers. What a shock. But I think it's really helpful to bring it up at the start of each year. Don't reinvent the wheel here. We do have all of this on that toolkit. Use it as a means of modifying the assignment. Use them in conjunction with ELA practices you're already using. They can practice highlighting relevant criteria in their work. Maybe they're looking at the historical argument, and every time they mention their argument in their work, their process paper on their board, they kind of mentally highlight it. As it relates to History Day, this is the judge's tool for evaluation. The better your students understand it, the better their work will do at the contest. Don't ignore that last 20% on the other side of the page, and also leaving space for student voice and autonomy in their practice. So here's an example of what the rubric looks like. The rubric is available online for you, and it's been updated last year so that there's only one chunk of language in each box. The 2020 there was two, so it was a little bit confusing for some people to navigate as far as like maybe it hits one but not the other. So now there's just one chunk of text there. So historical arguments consistently supported by analysis and evidence, and is key there. So, is there an argument there, or is it just a statement of fact? Is it something you can disagree with? Is there thorough analysis evident? is the argument consistently pointing back to primary evidence for support? And is the argument being analyzed or simply stated? So are we hearing their originality of thought? We don't want them just to rely on those secondary sources here. So this is just an example of one of the sections of the rubric and how the language there is something you can pull into your classroom instruction. Here's a very recent source for you. This is Coded Rubrics. So it is the whole big rubric there. And Coded Rubrics can help you give really fast feedback to students um, that they then use in whatever means you deem most helpful. It's really flexible for your classroom and your environment. The codes are just a means to an end, right? So the purpose is to give students fast feedback about their work in progress for them to use in self-assessment during individual or group work time. Students can use all these points of information to help them make decisions about their own work and conference with you after, if that's something you'd like to do. And so basically, the way it works is you have your numbers at the top and then your letters down that designate each one. So primary sources, right? That's one of the sections of the rubric. If the student scored in this box, you would write PS.3. So students would know that that's kind of where you've placed them. And I've done this for the entire section of the rubric. So instead of having to print out one of these for each, the students will see this in Google Classroom, for example, and you using this areas of improvement, maybe they need to do um, maybe they are in PS2, right? And then HA2. So you write those two as area of improvement. But maybe their perspectives are really present, right? Their multiple perspectives is kind of in the third box here. So you put that as area of strength. And this is really all you've given them. You just kind of print this out, cut them up, hand them out. You can also print these onto, if you line them up in this corner here, print them onto Post-its if that's something you like to do. And you're just focusing on the most pressing areas of need. You note the code there and hand them back. And then they can look at the rubric and see which ones you're saying, okay, you really need to work on this one and this one, but you're really strong here. And then you decide what the next step is. Maybe the next step is for them to, if they're struggling with historical argument, pull out the historical argument instructional rubric. And that's kind of how they can kind of work through that. Anyway, that's available for you online too. And then our biggest resource is the new guide that we wrote to Teaching with Primary Sources and Tennessee History Day. This was funded in part by a grant from the Library of Congress and Teaching with Primary Sources, as well as a donation from Cumberland Pharma. And the goal of this guidebook was to create resources, curriculum guides, graphic organizers that will assist you in navigating your first year and beyond. I want this to be something you can reference 10 years from now and still find helpful. Increase the number of primary sources that you're using in classroom instruction, not just their projects, as well as diversifying those sources. Better understand the structure of History Day, receive guidance on how to assist students in creating higher quality projects, and we're hoping that it increases new teacher participation across the state. It is available in hard copy as well as digitally. The structure of the guidebook is History Day information, curriculum, an introduction to what Teaching with Primary Sources is, lesson plans for you that use Teaching with Primary Sources strategies and resources, and then online resources and extensions coming soon. So there's all these different curriculum pieces that are included in here. I'm going to read through them very quickly and then highlight just a few. The topic funnel is there for you. Deciding on a History Day topic worksheet, National History Day topic proposal form, analyzing my History Day topic worksheet, a National History Day source sheet to kind of track their sources as they go, context helper, significance in history worksheet, giving proper credit, avoiding plagiarism, an annotated bibliography page, annotated bibliography guide on the side, as well as a process paper guide on the side, a parent or guardian letter sample, and then a written materials checklist. This is what the source sheet I mentioned looks like. It basically, students will do one for each of the sources that they use. And if they do this, they will not struggle when they're writing their annotated bibliography because they basically already answered the questions here. So this is a means to kind of keep up with all of that. I do have a goal in the next month to make a fillable one that I can share with you so that you can just throw this in Google Classroom or something and students can make a copy and do one for each. So I'm trying to get that done for you. This is what the guides on the side look like. It has all of your rules compliance information here, as well as your questions, so that they can do their draft copy here. And then there is a linked video. This is to use early on to help you decide on a topic. This is a topic proposal, so maybe you want your students to write a proposal on what they want their topic to be. They have to tell you what their narrow topic is, what they think their argument will be at this point, how does it relate to the theme, and then 3 sources they've found that helped them make this decision. So all of that's available online for you, and I do encourage you to find the PDF and save it so that you can reference it. And if you would like a spiral-bound hard copy, fill out the curriculum packet request that you see on the Discover Tennessee History Padlet, and I will get one to you as quickly as I can. So the last little thing I'm going to talk about is contest information, and that will be the end of this session. So I'm going to highlight who is your coordinator and some information for this contest season. So if you're in the northeast part of Tennessee, all students must participate in a district contest before advancing to the East Regional Contest. They must participate in a regional contest before coming to state. Educators and schools are limited on the number of entries they can submit in each district or region. Online registration is required for each teacher and student participating at all levels of the contest. This is what Tennessee looks like as far as our districts and regions. We have districts 1 and 2 up here in the corner: East, Southeast, Middle, North Middle, and West. Most students, like I said, who experience History Day experience this at the school level. So this is kind of how that's made up. Northeast Tennessee, if you're in any of these counties, your contest is hosted by Tusculum University. It's coordinated by Dr. Peter Knoll. And your district contest will be Friday, November 18th at Tusculum. And same day will be District 2. So if you're in these counties, you are going to go to Lincoln Memorial University and get to meet your coordinator, Natalie Sweet, there. Same day, Friday, November 18th at Lincoln Memorial University. East Tennessee Regional Contest, if you are in any of these counties or if you've placed first or second at Districts 1 and 2. Your coordinator is Lisa Oakley. Your contest date is Tuesday, February 26th at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville Student Union Building, I do believe. Southeast Tennessee, for those counties, your coordinator is Allie Thomas. Your contest is Friday, February 24th, 2023. It will be at Lee University in Cleveland in the Humanities Center. North Middle, for those counties there, your coordinators are Dr. Andrew Patrick and Dr. Keisha Brown. Your contest will be at the Avon Williams campus in Nashville, and it's Friday, February 17th, 2023. Middle Tennessee, for those counties there, your coordinator is Dr. Molly Taylor Polsky. Your contest is Friday, February 24th, 2023 at MTSU. West Tennessee, for those counties, Dr. Susan O'Donovan and Daniel Clark are your coordinators, and your contest will be Saturday, February 25th at the University of Memphis. If you place first or second in either of those, in any of this contest, you will come see me at Tennessee History Day, which will take place this year, Saturday, April 15th. We are going to be in the Capitol Complex as well as part of the Avon Williams campus this year. All this information is available on the teacher toolkit that I have linked in the Discover Tennessee History Padlet. And you can find all of these resources I mentioned and much, much more. I couldn't put all of it in there for you. There's my email is historyday@tennesseehistory.org. For any questions that you have, I'm happy to try to help you out and get started with the process of History Day. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking with you about what History Day could do for you and your students.